this is Mrs. Murdock, and I wanted to go over the types of gene linkage. And what I want to do is I want to contrast something that I'm sure you've heard about called sex linkage. When you have sex-linked genes, sex linkage, versus gene linkage, which is not the same. And I'm gonna compare and contrast them here for you. Okay, so we'll just make a little line here and kind of talk about both of these. So when a gene is sex-linked, when a gene is sex-linked, what this means, you have a sex-linked gene. It means the alleles for that particular trait are carried on the sex chromosomes. Specifically, on the X chromosome. So it's not that the Y chromosome doesn't have any genes on it, it does, but most of the disorders that we will learn about and that they'll expect you to know that are sex-linked disorders, where you can trace what's going on, including hemophilia, for example, is a big example of a sex-linked disorder. Hemophilia and colorblindness. Those are probably the two biggest ones that you'll come across that are sex-linked conditions. What this means is that, for example, if you have let's say that capital H is normal blood clotting, because hemophilia is when the blood clotting is not normal, right? So little h is hemophilia, is the allele that will make blood clotting not work as well, and that's what a hemophiliac experiences. That if they get a wound, the clotting factors that are supposed to come and close up that wound aren't there or aren't functioning correctly due to this genetic condition, right? So for example, I'm just using hemophilia as my main example here. So what happens is you still have two alleles that could control that trait, but now if you have, for example, a man, just to give a quick example here, so we won't worry about color blindness for now. But just an example of a hemophiliac and of the hemophiliac alleles and how they might be on these chromosomes. So if let's say that we have a man who has these sex chromosomes, you always start with the sex chromosomes, and a woman with the two X chromosomes, and let's say that he has normal vision. So he has a capital H here, but nothing attached to the Y. And then she has the heterozygous condition, which is what Queen Victoria had back in the day. She was a carrier for that hemophiliac allele, and she didn't know it. And if these people have children, if you look at what the Punnett square looks like for this, you have to make lots of room so that you have room to put those X's and the alleles they carry right there, like that, and then the Y, which carries no alleles. And if you carry that through, here's dad, here's mom, and you put that through there, look at what happens to the offspring. There and there. And then here are the boys. Okay, so what's going on, what you get is what very often happens if you take a look at this. The only probability of a hemophiliac child in this generation is this boy here. The girls are both going to be normal. One will be a carrier, but she won't have hemophilia, and the other won't be affected at all. And then there's a chance that you have a boy that he would inherit the dominant allele from his mother and be just fine. But what often happens with sex-linked conditions is that very often males are most affected. Males are most affected, and that's the clue. If you see a pedigree and a bunch of the males are affected by a disorder you're tracing, it's a pretty good clue that this is a sex-linked disorder. So that's how sex-linked alleles are arranged. Now let's go back up and take a look at what's that other one that popped up in your fly lab, because there's sex linkage that popped up with the white-eyed fruit flies, right? But then there was this other gene linkage thing, and what exactly is that? Okay, so I'm not going to go into real depth here, but I'm going to do another sentence again. Now we're talking about two genes. When two genes are said to be linked, they're referring to genes, alleles for two different traits that are located on one of the autosomes, not sex chromosomes, right? So we're talking about, it means alleles for two different traits are located on the same autosome. Okay, and an autosome, remember there's only two sex chromosomes. There's only two of those. The X and the Y, or the X and the X. Those are the two sex chromosomes. The other 44 chromosomes are called autosomes, all those other chromosomes that make up the rest of the 46 chromosomes that is our diploid number in human cells. So here's what a diagram to explain what that looks like. So if you have genes that are linked, what that means is, let's say you have a pair of homologous chromosomes. We've talked about this before. Homologous chromosomes are the same size and shape. One came from mom, the other came from dad, and they carry quite a few genes, right? So this could be, for example, I'm going to use a color here. Let's say that you have genes for eye color, right, up here, and maybe you have big B's and maybe you have little b's for eye color up here, and then down here you have the gene for hair color, let's say, and let's say those are A's. So here you have big A's, and here you have maybe little A's, right? Okay, so these genes for, eye color, just using it as an example, and hair color are stuck on the same chromosome. Didn't spell I very well. Okay, they're stuck on the same chromosomes. So that's not what happened when Gregor Mendel did with his pea plants. He was very fortunate that what he saw was something like this. He saw, and he didn't know this because he didn't know anything about chromosomes, but for him, he came up with that law of independent assortment because luckily for him, the contrasting traits that he was using, like A's and B's and whatever you want to make them, they were located on different, whoops, I'll make that a little b too, on different chromosomes, right? So the gene locuses, or the location of the genes for different contrasting traits in his fruit flies, in his pea plants, were luckily located on different chromosome sets, on different homologous chromosomes. So if you look at that, remember, independent assortment means that those chromosomes can switch places. They can switch places, and if they so the big A's and little A's don't necessarily have, big A and big B are not necessarily going to be inherited together because these chromosomes might switch places and these might not. But over here, big A and big B are going to almost always be inherited together because they're stuck on the same chromosome. No matter whether these chromosomes switch places along the metaphase plate in late prophase 1, it might not matter because they're still stuck on the same chromosome. And if you remember, the only way, now if you remember what's going on in your fly lab, the only way for there to be recombinant organisms would be for this, during crossing over, for the big A and little A's to maybe switch places, right? So during crossing over, you might be able to switch the positions of the A's and the B's, right? So crossing over is the only way. Might, right? It might switch little a and little and big A positions. So then you could have a big B be inherited with a little a, but only during crossover events, right? So when you have linkage, this is linkage. This situation is linkage. Crossing over is the only way to get those sort of the 9, 3, 3, 1, those in-between ones, the 3 and the 3, where you're mixing up dominant and recessive traits. Only crossing over is going to allow that. Whereas over here, this is not linked. Not linked. Okay. So they can be, so you can have yes, independent assortment. Independent assortment. Okay. So I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. I just wanted to contrast sex linkage, where you have alleles for a single trait that are being carried on the sex chromosomes, like these, which is a very special condition and is only found in certain things like hemophilia, color blindness, the white-eyed fruit flies in your fly lab, and a few other things. Linkage is actually very common. I mean, we have 46 chromosomes. We certainly don't have just one gene on each chromosome. We have lots of genes on every single one of our chromosomes. Sometimes they're linked on the same autosome, sometimes they're not. But in linkage, we're talking about alleles for different traits, and if they're located on the same chromosome, that's going to limit the amount of independent assortment they can do. And if they are not linked, then they'll be able to independently assort. So just to complete this, if you do have independent assortment and you're doing a dihybrid cross, you should get that 9, 3, 3, 1 phenotypic ratio. Because everything's independently assorting, so you should get these different types of offspring in this particular ratio. If you have linkage, though, with linkage, you'll not get the Mendel ratio. You will not get expected Mendel ratio, right? They're not going to behave like as a independently assorting and therefore doing that giant Punnett square where you put all those letters together. It won't do that because you have some that are stuck together. Okay, so that hopefully clarifies that a little bit, and hopefully that will help you to figure out some of those fly lab questions. Thank you, and I hope that was helpful.